Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Hey, thank you for clicking on this video. You guys rock. You've shown me a lot of support lately. Welcome to all the new subscribers. You guys are pretty awesome. So we have another TU-10 Division 2 build on your doorstep. And man, I'm proud of this one because I see a lot of people using this wrong. I see a lot of YouTubers telling you to do this and that, and those guys are wrong because, well, they rushed out content for the clicks. And today we're going to make sure we do it right, all right? That's how we do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, status effect, crowd control, burn combination coming at you right now around the Eclipse Protocol. I like to call this one the STD build. It spreads and it burns, man. You know, you're passing it around. Naturally, the name fits, okay? The STD build. So here we go. Now, we're going to focus on the build, and then I'll show you some crispy little gameplay in the background. Yes, Punstar coming at you. So, here we go. Specialization, Firewall. Now this is basically, it should be a no-brainer. It's called Firewall, right? It's in the ding name. So use this. It adds to the duration of your burn, which is what this whole build's about. Why this doubles as a crowd control build is because burn keeps enemies, like in Heroic and less, under crowd control. It's one of the strongest forms of crowd control in this game right now. It's got the longest duration of any of the crowd controls, and I'll explain why. Now, as for the weapons, I am using the Harmony, which is the new named rifle. It's got perfectly in sync, really buffs up your skill damage, really buffs up your weapon damage. It is an incredible weapon. As a secondary option, I've got the Pyromaniac on because, well, people are going to be on fire, and we happen to do more damage to the Bernie people. So, no brainer. Now, the talents on this are going to be Hughes, what you use on this 4-piece. Now, please follow these steps. This is a template for you to work upon, but I feel like I got this in a good space. You got to just trust me on this. I wouldn't say tamper with this build at all. So, to start with, we have the brand new exotic mask, the Vial. Now, this thing is a very strong, it's best in slot you can use right now. 2-piece Wyvern works really well, but Vial just slightly outpaces the damage per tick, and it makes it the smart play to go. And at the end of the day, you kind of look like Ant-Man's mom over here. What is this? Aunt Karen, what is this? Let me speak to the manager. Anyways, Toxic Delivery. Status effect also applies damage over time debuff for 10 seconds. You can spread it. It is effective. It does around 60,000 damage per tick, so not much more than a bleed at the end of the day. It does work. It does help. But again, it barely outpaces the 2-piece Wyvern, and I think it needs a buff personally. So go with the Vial. It looks really, really good. Now, as for the backpack, this is where things get interesting. I recommend you to definitely leave the backpack wide open because it's got some of the strongest talents in the game. Now, things like Shock and All work. Tech support can work. Things like that work really well. I recommend Combined Arms. You are already using InSync, and it's really easy to time the Airburst within that 3-second window. And Combined Arms is the way that I would go. Shooting a target allows you to get an incredible increase to your skill damage, and that's what I recommend you guys to do, because if you do not know this, skill damage is what impacts the strength of your burn, and status effect is how long that burn lasts. So as much as status effect as possible is your primary goal. Secondary goal is as much skill damage as you can get so the burn is stronger. And you can get that out of the 2-piece Wyvern. You get that extra skill damage you can't get from the Vial. And that's why, you know, it kind of closes that damage gap. That's why it's not much better while using the Vial. And things like Shock and All work well too, but unfortunately when you set something on fire, that starts a status effect. The skill damage doesn't come into play until you set somebody else on fire or something like that, so the follow-up is where this one's strong. So it's not an ideal role. I don't have Combined Arms on it, but I wish I did, and that's what I'd recommend you to use. As for the 4-piece, I recommend the chest piece as a must-have because that's what really opens this build up and spreads the indirect transmission. So Proliferation increases the range of it from 15 meters to 20 meters. So that's a much wider radius of you infecting people and setting them on fire. That is huge. I freaking love it, right? It's great. It refreshes the percentage from 50% to 75 as well. This is massive. That's seconds. We're talking 5-6 seconds people are going to be crowd controlled and on fire. That is huge. Huge. Now, I want you to understand this because Eclipse Protocol is all about spreading, which means after you kill that first person and you spread it, everybody's either at 50%, if you don't use this chest piece, or they're at 75. It's a no-brainer. You have to use the chest piece. Now, what makes this build thrive? The only reason I use this build is Airburst. I see a lot of people out there telling you to use turret, primarily the Chem Launcher. Chem Launcher is really popular in PvP, and it's what I would use in PvP with this build. Really strong. But if you look over there on the side, you'll see the burn duration's a measly 13 seconds versus the one she tells you not to worry about, and we're looking at a crispy 30 seconds. These are huge numbers. You can work on these and improve these a little bit if you want to. But at the end of the day, the Airburst burn is 3 times as long as any other fire source in this game. Flamethrower, sticky bomb burn, all of that stuff. By time you think that you've gone ahead and spread this to other enemies, you already have a reduction in time there, 75 or 50%. Then you factor in resistances, and the Chem Launcher only burns for a few seconds. It's potent, it's strong on actual impact, but it's not great with the Eclipse Protocol because it only lasts a few seconds. It's just not that great. It really isn't. Airburst is what makes this whole thing. Again, they're on fire, they're shaking it off, they're crowd controlled, it's almost like they're blind. You get to put damage into them, tear it up. Airburst is around this whole build. Nobody's talking about it. Consider this the advice. If you run Eclipse Protocol, lead with Airburst, set someone on fire, kill them, it spreads to everyone else, and it's going to last 3 times as long as this burn does. It's going to wipe waves, and then the extra waves, and then the extra waves. You're going to see gameplay here in a second. Airburst makes the whole build. Trust me on it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show off some of the actual build and content for you now. Now, I want to give you a couple little notes real quick. Things are really interesting with this. As I said before, skill damage impacts this. I can put glass cannon on and get rid of the chest piece and start hitting over 100,000 harder for my my burn damage per tick if I wanted to. I can use any sort of skill build. Perpetuation works really well as well on your gun as a reminder. These are just little tips. Now, I found that I did not get any sort of damage increase from the backpack in the Eclipse Protocol 4-piece. And as I said, there are stronger options out there anyways with like combined arms, but I don't know. I felt a little weird using it. I couldn't tell any differences in numbers. I think it's actually bugged and just does simply not work. So I'd say stay away from the backpack, but that's pretty much the only bit of little advice that I can give you for this build. Now, I tried this build with 2 other variants. I tried using this as a crowd control, where I would basically put on Blinder and like Airburst so I can get a little bit of damage, but also try to keep Blinder up as much as possible. I got rid of the chest piece, tried tag team. I tried a bunch of different things, and I could not get an actual crowd control build for Legendary working on this. The cooldown was just not strong enough. Blinder's been nerfed into the ground. You're probably going to need to put all yellow build with like a Costas on before you really get any value out of a Blinder build. So the CCD variant, it was a fail. It was dead. It was dead on arrival. I tried though, right? And I experimented. I also tried a skill variant, which is very interesting. So you can roll status effect off of all these pieces if you would like. Put on skill damage, and your burn's it's gonna be super strong, right? You're gonna be hitting 700k per tick. It's a lot of damage, but because you sacrifice the status effect, the burn's gonna last a few seconds, like literally just a few seconds, and you're gonna lose damage over time. It's gonna be much weaker, but at least you can use other skills if you would like the artillery turret, which is going to hit still pretty strong. I had a glass cannon build variant of this where I was hitting 5 million on that. The bleed was 100k, the burn was 700k. I was getting some good damage out, but it was a lot of maintenance to keep worrying about burns, about using the turret. The artillery turret's hard to use and difficult, keeping in sync up and running through all of that. It was just a bunch of work, and honestly, the standard artillery build is just much better than having to work with that. But you can do it. If you want to push yourself and have a high maintenance build, you could build this in all skill damage and get a little bit of burst out of that extra additional burn. I don't think you need to, but hey, do what you want. As for where this necessarily falls in the meta, for PvP it's very strong, but I would say lead with the Chem Launcher, ignore the Airburst. It's not going to be easy to hit somebody with the Airburst in PvP, so do something like that and find another variation. I also see a lot of people telling you guys to run high for bleed. Bleed is insignificant. The damage is so minuscule, it's not worth wasting an ability on. People are saying, hey, use the artillery turret for the bleed. Hey, use the hive for the bleed. Don't. It's really not. You can use the secondary Chem Launcher. That's going to make up for it. Again, the burn damage is going to be hitting for hundreds of thousands compared to like 50,000. It's night and day, man. There's no point to worry about that little bit of extra damage that a bleed can do. Don't do it. Stay away from that. Double up on your fire. Now, where this is in the PvE side of things is where it gets really crispy, really interesting. And what I like about this is you blow through solos, you blow through group play, heroics and less. I mean, you clear waves quickest. This is like a speed run build. Like this, it shreds them. It melts them. Yeah, we're going that way, right? And I love it. It's honestly a lot of fun. It's very satisfying to try to kill targets and spread it around. It keeps you involved, and it's more action than your average build, and I like it. But the fact that it's so potent makes it remarkable for heroic and less and missions and everything like that. I consider it a must-have right now. This is very high in the meta for standard runs. Now, legendaries. I have done this in legendaries, and it works in legendaries. It's just not the best build you can use for AoE. For AoE, that's no-brainer is an artillery build. The artillery build definitely outclasses this for legendary. I do have a video down below if you want to know how to use that and build that. It's very potent. You're talking 8 million a hit for an artillery turret. You're talking about bleed. You can keep the drone up and running as well. It's going to do a lot of work in crowd control on its own. I mean, this is a strong build, right? But you got to be fighting against humans. We are flammable. We tend to burn. And that's going to do nothing against warhounds and tanks and the thick daddies, right? They don't care about a burn. They're not going to stop in their tracks. You're not going to do anything to the warhounds. So you're limited to your effectiveness in legendary. And yeah, it's doable. I've gotten through them, but there were parts where I felt almost exactly useless, and it shows. So it's a strong build, but I would pretty much keep this in heroic, doing missions and stuff like that, and it's personally one of my favorites now. So I think it's great. But if you guys have any other things that you want to add to this, talk about how this can be improved, leave a comment down below. If you have any questions, let me know. Swing by a live stream where we test this stuff. We do runs all the time. That's going to be located down in the description as well. But thank you yet again for clicking on this video and taking time out of your day to support me and check something out. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you with another one soon. Subscribe if you're new. I'll catch you on a live stream later today.